Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have a quorum with Bonnie calling in, and I'll just take the roll. But first, I'm going to read our mission statement, which is to develop, enhance, advance, and nurture all facets of the arts to enhance the quality of life for Meridian residents and its visitors. So I'll do a quick roll call. Lynn Smith? Present. Jessica Peters?
Present.
Bonnie Zahn Griffith?
Present.
Leslie Malden, that's me, I'm here. Ginny Hale? Present. Maria Tsompa? Jay Wilson? Gretchen Casarati and Randy B. Funk could not make it today thus far. And Genesis Milam just walked in the door. Hi. So with that, if there are no adjustments that need to be made to the agenda, I see none myself. Does anyone else have anything that needs to be adjusted? And if not, we would entertain a motion to adopt.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the agenda as written.
Seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, and we got the minutes. Thank you, Adrienne, for getting that to us in our notes, our email in a timely manner. And I wasn't here for the last meeting, so in absentia, thank you to Gretchen Casarati, since Bonnie was not here either, for chairing that last meeting. And if there are no adjustments that need to be brought out to be made, we would consider a motion on the September 12th meeting minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from the September 12th meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ginny, is your green light on your mic?
It's not red.
As long as it's not red. Oh.
Got it.
I think I just French impressionist painting a green light there. I just assumed red, green. Okay, great. Number 4, we have a new business action item, and this, Emily, if you could take us through this. This is the accession de-accession policy that we are reviewing and considering for our public art installations.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. So in your packet, and hopefully you've reviewed it because it's kind of long, is a draft of an artwork acquisition and de-accession policy. This is something that a lot of cities and agencies have. The city of Meridian does not have this, and we've had a few issues come up where we've talked about or had really an offer to acquire a piece of artwork, and we're doing kind of an ad hoc process to determine whether or not to accept that. And likewise, most recently, for example, the traffic box question, should we remove a piece of artwork that's been installed that hasn't reached the end of its kind of useful life, or should we not? So this policy is really to help address kind of those questions. Well, and I guess I'd like to also add, we had an issue with a traffic box where we received a number of complaints. That was another issue that was before the commission, and really there was, again, this ad hoc process to determine whether or not to, or how to address those complaints. So this policy is really intended to help the commission deal with that. It also kind of memorializes some of the different ways that we acquire public art, whether we commission it or issue a call to artists. There's, of course, infinite ways to do that and different combinations of ways to do that, but this still is an attempt to kind of put some of that down in writing. This does, as I mentioned, include kind of a gift policies. Some agencies have a separate gift policy that it governs when do we, under what terms do we accept a gift, and it also encourages the city to enter into an acceptance agreement that establishes for the person giving the gift kind of what it means to give the gift, and typically it's going to say we may or may not hang it up, we might get rid of it, we we might sell it. And if the artist has some kind of, or I guess the person giving the gift has some kind of expectation regarding that gift, that would be explained in that acceptance agreement. The last thing I would say is as to decommissioning artwork, so it's called deaccessioning or decommissioning, to say that kind of putting some sideboards on when we are done with a piece of art and it kind of passes out of the city's inventory. That doesn't have to happen, but this policy gives you a framework for what to do when it does.
Emily, I have a question. Would this policy be applicable to acquired donations other than works of art? I mean, do you remember that, the donation of the player piano a few years back? Could that be, if we were to ever receive anything like that, could this accession, deaccession policy be applicable to that? I mean, I doubt that we'll ever take anything in like that, but if we were, would this be applicable, or would we need to? some
Madam
adjustment.
Chair, members of the commission, this really probably wouldn't apply to stuff. It's really
Okay.
specific to artwork. That was certainly unique, and that was almost more of a question for purchasing, the purchasing division of our finance department, because that was bringing an asset onto the city's inventory that, in that case, wasn't artwork. It's certainly in the same family, but that was more of a thing than really this is intended to deal with. This is really, so we did receive.
Seems very specific, which is good. Sorry.
Right, it's a little more specific. We did receive a gift of artwork, and thankfully it was beautiful and wanted, which sometimes it's not, and there's no nice way to say no. So, or there's no nice way to not hang it up. Sometimes that it's more graceful to accept the gift and then kind of put it in storage. So this is really intended just to be for artwork.
Okay, great. That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you, Francis. And thank you for all your work on this. This really looks great. I wasn't here last month for the discussion, but I've read it through thoroughly, and it looks, having been at that symposium up in Moscow where they talked so much about their accession and deaccession policy and how it had a few issues that had to do with maintenance and removal, and this really does seem to address a lot of the questions that were brought up in the meeting about accession and deaccession, so thank you. It looks really good. Any more input from commissioners?
I just have one small question, or maybe a comment. It references the commissions specialist, which I think, was Hillary's old position. And I think it's going to be called something else now, is that right? So we would just want to make sure that it reflects, I don't know if we want to change it to some more generic language to make it clear, in case the position changes again, or I don't know how we want to handle that, but, I think it's good to point out a specific role for the kinds of tasks that are outlined there, but we want to make sure that we're not hung up on a specific name.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, that's a great note. I think, I actually think commissions and committees coordinator was not Hillary's final title. I think even it was outdated even before she left. So thanks for pointing that out. So we can definitely change it, and then, that obviously tends to happen, unfortunately, maybe especially with the government. I don't know, but it just kind of to get the policy in place is there's enough process that is necessary that when those little details change, we just say, oh, we know what that means. So I think we can at least have it right when we first adopt it.
Okay.
So thank you. I'm not sure I would have thought of that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Could we change it to something like designated city staff or city staff designee? Or something like, would that make any sense? Can you point out to me exactly where that is? Which paragraph, what?
Well, I think it's toward the end, it's in a couple of paragraphs.
Okay.
Maybe even just, city staff, with, MAC oversight or something.
Okay, it's a good idea.
That way we don't have to come back and revisit. Thank you, that's good catch.
Otherwise, I think it was great. Thank you so much for all of your work on that.
Thank you. Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I guess I would add, and of course, not to foreclose any further discussion, but the next step really would be for MAC, when you're ready, it doesn't have to be this month, but to, when you're ready, to make a motion recommending that City Council adopt this policy. And, several departments have kind of internal policies, but we don't have an arts department. And as Hillary's former position kind of changes, maybe that will change. So the Arts Commission will have more of kind of a home within city departments. Historically, it's kind of been on its own, which is why there really aren't a lot of arts policies, because they don't have anywhere to live. So what we would do in this instance is ask City Council to adopt a resolution kind of making this the city's policy, which it is. It's applying to the entire city. So that would be, for lack of a better way to kind of catalog policies related to art, that's how we would do it. So that would be my request of you, is to, at some point, make a recommendation to City Council that they adopt this as the city's, I'll use the whole, as the city's artwork acquisition and deaccession policy and procedures.
I would be comfortable today with that one amendment that, and since, like you said, it's not a material change to it, it's just making it clearer and making it so that we don't have to come back. It's really not a material change. I would be comfortable suggesting that this be adopted by City Council today with that one change, especially since we're in the midst of something that we need the policy for.
Yeah.
Because we're going through this policy with the Ian Lawson sponsorship. That would give a clear path forward to be able to work on that too within policy. So further discussion from,
Madam Chair, I just
Yes.
want to point out one thing with regard to the traffic box wraps. We discussed this a little bit in our last Public Art Committee meeting, and it's something that we're going to address in our Public Art Plan as well, how to handle traffic box wraps specifically, and our policy for wrapping and rewrapping, and how we decide
okay,
how to change them out and where they'll go and things like that. So our goal is to have that plan finished by the end of the fiscal year. So
okay,
we're starting to get the ball rolling on that. So I know it doesn't help us
right.
now with this specific instance, but we plan to wrap that up into our public art plan as well.
Okay, so are you saying that you want to wrap that up into this particular policy here, so maybe it's not?
No.
Okay.
No, I just was
Okay.
pointing out, because it was brought up, because Emily brought it up, that we plan to address the issue of the traffic box wraps
Okay,
in our public
great.
art plan, in terms of deaccession and changing out wraps and how often we do that.
Okay, but that will be, okay, great, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Emily.
on that note, so a previous iteration of this kind of got into the difference between maybe like temporary, transitory, permanent, quasi-permanent, and I really abandoned that in this policy, and so it's really a higher up kind of way of addressing it, and I really like that there's going to be some further discussion about the traffic boxes, because as this is written, this is really to address the decommissioning of artwork that's on the city's asset inventory, which is really a thing, like a sculpture. So for example, the mural, I know it's on the Zamzo's property, but let's pretend the mural was on City Hall. The mural would not be part of the city's inventory. It might be the part of the artwork inventory and our public art inventory, but it's not a thing that we need to kind of wipe off of our rolls. So
Okay.
I think this gives you some guidance about how you might address the traffic box situation where we have a request to take that off and put a new one on. But I think you would find that in the end, it isn't actually that helpful. It gives you
applicable.
kind of
Okay.
a way to move forward on that. But in the end, it really is about getting artwork off of our inventory and kind of being done with that. So the traffic box, by comparison, is not a thing. It's honestly a sticker, and we don't have it on our inventory as a city asset. So
Makes sense.
yeah, so I really like that there's an effort to kind of address that specifically, because this, I'm not sure, does. It can. So if we want to get more granular with this, but this is really more for, Under the Sun and Dreaming, or the artwork in the lobby, artwork that are things.
Right.
So
Right.
And I think it's wise to keep them separate, but to have some policies that serve other, like temporary, which the traffic box art, the murals, all of those could be treated by what you're working on in the temporary accession, deaccession. Which
that's
is
great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Emily. Is there any other comments or questions about this policy? And if not, we would consider a motion with, of course, the wording, the small wording amendment, making, to keep us from having to circle back, regarding the title of the city staff. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we accept this and present it to the council for acceptance.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, great. Let's move on then to, hi, David. Come on down. This is David Stolhand. He is a string player and also the executive director, chair of the board of the Meridian Symphony Orchestra. And he used to be, for those of you who don't know, he was on the commission when I came on and left quickly thereafter. Concerts of Broadway, here you go. Bye.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk about our proposal. I think copies of what we had talked about, or at least what I Hillary. Oh, thanks. Oh, my
There we go.
goodness. Oh,
Oh,
scared
been
me.
working? Can you pull that up so that we can see it, so I'm not like, this makes me look like I'm texting during a meeting, but I've just been scrolling through the
Sure, Leslie.
Our proposal for this event, so the impetus for this is really our 30th anniversary season. We wanted to do something a little bit special to commemorate that, not only for our musicians, but for patrons and folks that have supported us over the years. Our kind of the details of the event that we are proposing, February the 8th, it's a Saturday. We're looking at an evening event. The way that we kind of see this as being set out is several different things. We wanted something that we could have small group performances. We wanted to mix in a silent auction aspect of this. We don't see this as a fundraiser more than an ability to cover our costs, and I think that silent auctions are more entertainment for the folks that come to your events. We also were looking to do a bigger performance event, as it were. And along those lines, we have talked to the Kings of Swing. They are available on that date, and they would be our kind of our main attraction for this. And so when we started thinking about places that we would hold this, we kept coming back to City Hall for a couple of reasons. One, the layout of it kind of makes sense for the pieces that we are going to have at this event. So we would have the first floor that we would have the smaller ensembles, the silent auction piece, and then the main entertainment would be upstairs in the gallery. In the thinking behind that also started with going back to concerts on Broadway and an event that we had rained out once, and we actually put the Kings of Swing upstairs, which ended up being a great event. I know that this would be a Saturday, so we need access to pieces of City Hall. Obviously getting in the front doors, access to the third floor. There is some conversation about if we could have access to the loading elevator on the third floor back in to get things, mainly for the musicians, so that we're not dragging it through the front door and through the elevators. This would be a ticketed event. We plan to put this out to our musicians, our patrons, season ticket holders, those sorts of folks, and we would expect probably 100 to 150 attendees. That is kind of it in a nutshell, and I would love to answer any questions that the commission has with regards to the event.
Okay, I know that it sounds like a fantastic event, and I understand the description of the silent auction as entertainment, something to occupy people's. We would just have to double check on that, because that's the one. Emily, can you speak a little bit to that as far as how that works with using the city building for that?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I wouldn't worry so much about that.
Okay.
And I guess part of it is figuring out the role of MAC and MSO if we're moving forward. I think logistics is going to be the biggest thing to overcome, particularly because the mayor is in charge of stuff like that, and obviously we're going to have a switcheroo, so it's going to be challenging kind of navigating how to secure that permission and then make sure that and kind of confirm that permission. So once, I guess, to answer your actual question, MSO having the event, if the event is okay, really anything goes.
Okay.
Within reason, of course, but a silent auction would be fine, and sales, that would be fine. It's just a matter of kind of approving the event as a whole.
All right, great. That's good news. So basically, the risk would be that it would get approved under this mayorship, and then you'd get it'd be a little bit late notice just in case it didn't work out. Once the change is there,
Right.
find another spot. So really, I just think it sounds like a great event. I think it would flow well here, and my favorite part of it is that we get people up into the Initial Point Gallery.
And
We
that's
just
kind of
can't
what
seem to-
I still have a little bit of
Yeah.
commission in my blood. And
Yeah, there
I
you
think
go.
about dragging, folks have not been up there to experience a space like that. We could hold this at other places.
Right.
It doesn't have the same feel, and I don't think it attaches us properly to the city, the commission, Parks and Rec, who have supported us over the years in the various things that we've done. So that was also part of it.
Yeah.
And
that's what
I
figured.
totally get, with the change in administration and all that. I guess my question would be, is that a decision that would not be able to be made until, or it would be a conditional approval until, say, January 1, or I don't know,
Yeah.
what is the timing on something like that?
I think that that we certainly, if all were in agreement, we could certainly go forward with a conditional approval. And of course, MAC approving it would depend on, but then city council needs to come through as well on this, on something like this, right? We would be giving a recommendation to city council on this?
Madam Chair, it's the mayor. So the mayor is the, kind of the CEO of the city, and this is kind of within her purview. So
Okay.
I guess my recommendation would be that for purposes of this meeting, that the decision be made whether or not MAC is behind it. And then, I can work with you, David, to go to the mayor's office and at least get it on the books and get it okayed. And actually, you said something that made me remember that Hillary's position, if it's moving to the Parks and Rec Department, and they have Saturday events all the time. They're not necessarily at City Hall, but that kind of that could get staff more invested, and then it's more of, we have the right people on site. So
So
That's
is
a
that
great
where that
point.
position is planning to be in the future?
yes.
And it would be attached to Parks and Rec, but still would have,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So that actually is a really
So that might
positive
help.
change.
Yes. For
Madam Chair.
this, for sure.
Sorry.
Yes. Genesis?
So another thing to consider, really, making a recommendation, this is government. That everything takes a long time. Welcome. The election is less than a month away. And yes, the new mayor will not be able to make official, do anything officially, but if Mayor Tammy is behind it, once you find out who the new mayor is going to be, I would assume some conversations could happen. Like I said, nothing official, but at least if it's for sure a no, that would give you more time to find another venue. It doesn't have to wait till January. Really, it's the beginning of November.
Okay.
Okay.
And the way I think about it. So,
Yeah.
beginning of January scares me a little bit for your event.
Yes.
Yeah.
How many people are you expecting to have?
100, 150.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anyway, if you think about it that way, I think that it makes a lot more sense, and you'll have a pretty good feeling depending on who wins the mayor, I think.
Yeah.
Great.
Come
Yes.
November 5th.
Yes, we will.
Madam Chair, I have a
Yes.
few questions.
Jessica?
First of all, do we have room for that many people in Initial Point Gallery?
They wouldn't, as I'm understanding it, they wouldn't all be there at the same time. Kings of Swing would be performing and people would be kind of moving through.
I think it would be a moving
Okay.
target at some point. I think that a majority of folks would be up there, but when we had the rain out and had to move everybody up there, you'd be surprised on how many folks you could actually get into that space. Now,
With room
fire
to
code,
dance, hopefully.
fire code is a whole different story, but.
Actually, we're okay with that amount.
Okay,
fire code.
for that particular event, I was actually shocked how many people
Yeah.
we could get up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so-
we had to do it once too, and they
Yeah.
came in and gave us aisles and because it was a sit-down
Yeah, yeah,
concert, and
yeah.
150 is well within the
Yeah,
scope, so.
yeah.
Okay, that's good. So you mentioned having some other music down here. Are
Right.
the acoustics right for that?
There'd be small groups.
Yeah.
It would be like playing in a, yeah.
It's a little bouncy,
A
but it works.
restroom,
Yeah.
but, I mean, when we're
Yeah.
talking about a string quartet or a brass quintet or something like that, I don't know that that would be that big a deal.
Okay,
We've had strings out in the lobby
Yeah.
before, a few
Yeah.
times, and
that's true.
it was bouncy, but it sounds,
Yeah.
it's live, but
It's
it's great.
live, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not ideal, but I think it would be a really cool thing, because what we were thinking is, as folks were coming in, it just sets the atmosphere,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
That's it up.
One more question. Since it's a Saturday, and I don't know what that requires in terms of having city staff available to open the doors or to, I mean, what are the logistics from the city side and what are the costs associated with that? And how
Well,
would
that's-
that be handled?
Right, that's what Emily was just addressing a minute ago with the fact that the staff is going to be now housed in Parks and Rec, and Parks and Rec is accustomed to doing weekend events.
Right.
So that really facilitates that. They would have a certain amount of staff, most likely, available for a Saturday.
Yeah.
And so that actually makes that question a lot easier to answer.
And from our side of it, we see that, set up, tear down, clean up, all of that, I mean, that's on us, right?
Okay.
So we would not have the expectation that there would be somebody on staff or to take care of that for us. I mean, that's
Yeah.
totally on us.
Okay.
Okay.
Does the city charge to hold events inside the building at all, or is it? I mean, is there a cost
Emily?
associated with this, holding the event?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, it's actually not done. So it would either be allowed and at no charge, or not allowed. So
Okay.
it's a really good question, but there's no fee set up for this.
Okay.
Okay.
What property taxes are for, right?
I mean, I would expect that because it's a city building.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
you always have to think about that, so.
Yep.
Thank you. I think it sounds like a great event.
I
I do
mean,
too.
we've got a lot of, we're bringing in conductors from previous seasons with our first concert coming up on the 19th of this month. A lot of special things. We're hoping to have a larger announcement towards the end of the year. I don't know if we'll make it at this event or if it would be at our last concert, but there's some other things that we've got in the works as well. So, not that this is a milestone, but I think it's important to celebrate things like this. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it here and for,
Yeah.
because I know your knowledge of the commission is informing this process and this decision to ask for this
Yeah.
space in particular. And, we'll probably get a bunch of people that say, we didn't know there was an art gallery up here.
Yes.
And now you do, bring your
It'll
friends.
go along with the same folks that say we didn't know that there was a symphony on Meridian. I've been listening to that one for a while as well.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody knows there's an opera company here either, so. All right, thank you so much. Any
Hey.
further questions? And if not, we would consider a motion.
I would like to propose a motion to accept the Meridian Symphony Orchestra 30th Anniversary Gala event to be held inside City Hall, in the foyer and in the Initial Point Gallery.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Great, thank you
Great.
for being here.
Thank you.
Yay,
Okay,
so
thank
exciting. All right, so now we have an old business action item. This is something that's been on the agenda several times. So, Jessica, were you going to take this? Update on
Madam
the
Chair.
Ian Lawson sponsorship? Yes.
I can give an
Adrian.
update if you want really quick
Great.
and
Thank you,
then
Adrian.
turn it over to you, if that works. I did have a conversation with Ian Lawson
Okay,
and let him know based on last meeting that basically his best options were to either wait until the traffic box that he would like to sponsor, which is at Main and Fairview. He could wait until that wrap expires, which is in 2021, or he could choose another location, which has not been wrapped as yet. He said he would entertain the idea of wrapping a box, sponsoring a wrap at a box that has not yet been wrapped, but he wanted to know what his options were. At that point, I turned it over to Jessica and the Public Art Committee to discuss options, and they've looked at the Excel spreadsheet, and I think we're at the point where some decisions need to be made so that I can take back to Ian what boxes he might be able to choose from, and then I would have a follow-up conversation with him, and he can either decide if he's interested in the boxes that he has to choose from, or if we would refund his sponsorship with the promise that we could put him at the top of the priority list when the box that he actually has chosen and desires most is up for rewrap again.
okay, thank you, Adrian. Jessica?
Adrian, you had sent an email out about this, and I responded just to the Public Art Committee. Did you hear anything back from anyone? No? So, to refresh everyone's memory, the piece of art that we're talking about is a painting of two great blue herons. We voted on it, I think, in the spring to add to our repository of traffic box art. And I looked at some of the spots that are still available, and there's one that seems like a pretty obvious choice. There's a traffic box at Meridian Road and I think Woodbridge. Is that what I told you? It's Meridian Road. There's I think a crosswalk and an intersection there, and it's a block away from the Heron Village Apartments. And there's a street right there that's Blue Heron Road or something like that. So pretty on the nose, but I thought, well, gosh, that I think that would be a perfect spot. So we didn't hear anything back from any of the other Public Art Committee members about this. So I'll throw that option out there as, if he's interested, I think that would be a good spot for it. There's a lot of traffic, so it'll, going up Meridian Road, so it'll get a lot of visibility there as well.
How near is it to the crosswalk? Will people be walking by it or as well?
I think so. It's not far.
Because that's an advantage.
Yeah, it's, a block, or it's like the next street up.
Okay.
But it's a short street. I mean, it's maybe a quarter mile.
Okay,
I
how
guess.
close is it to I can't remember, and we just don't have it up. What's the address of the other?
Oh, it was
Other
Main and
propo- the-
Fairview?
Main
Is
and
that right?
Fairview.
So it's probably a
Okay,
mile,
okay.
mile and a half, 2 miles maybe.
Well, I think that sounds like a great option to propose to Ian to see if he would be interested in that. I think that sounds like a great location. Any other comments, questions?
I have a question, Madam Chairman. Is the selection of Main and Fairview, is that because it's a large intersection? Is this a prime spot or something?
Commissioner Smith, sorry.
Go ahead.
When I talked to Ian, it sounded like his family has ownership in the plaza that's directly across the street from that. And so because of some family sentimentality,
I
and I
see.
believe he said it might be his mother's work that he's wanting to put on there.
Okay,
So I think that's why it's important to him.
I see.
Well, were there any other traffic boxes available that were closer to that location that made any sense to you?
I don't think so.
At all?
We've done a lot of wrapping
Okay.
kind of in the main Meridian area, so.
Okay. Well, maybe we could talk to him, see what he thinks about this new location, especially, given that it's a high-traffic area, and it's kind of specific to the art, which is, we don't always have to do that, but it's kind of fun when we can.
Yeah. I mean, we do try to put art where it might be a more relevant location, so like youth art goes near schools and libraries and things like that,
And we have that beautiful picture of the older woman sitting on the bench gardening right in front of Lowe's. That's
Yeah.
just, it's, so this kind of follows that trend and that precedent that we've set to kind of try to be geographically relevant to the businesses and scenery around. So maybe we could propose that to him, see what his interest is, and then possibly when the wrap comes open in 2021, tell him that we will also inform him then when that wrap that becomes available that's on his family's, in his family's area, that we would certainly let him know, and we could consider, if he'd like to consider something else there, then we could do that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
To add a little context, I think, Jessica, if I'm looking at the map properly, the Blue Heron,
Can we have, is it possible to get anything up on our screens? I feel blind.
you have your login information?
I'm on it's open, and I have this glass recycling now available.
Yeah, usually we don't have to log in.
Presentation, yeah.
Put it up as a presentation, because then it
will Yeah. also
go up on the screens here for.
Yeah, for the people that are watching.
I'm just on the internet, so I
Yeah, I clicked on presentation.
What do you have, okay.
told that you guys have your
Usually Hillary used to control the screen.
Yeah. Usually we have everything
I
up.
think they're up there, yeah.
I don't have, it's not a presentation.
I'm not sure how Hillary is doing that.
And that's okay. I mean, you're so kind to be filling in and doing.
Yeah, I apologize. I was told that you guys had
Oh, don't
logins
worry.
to log in, and so I have my own computer up. I don't know how to share my screen with you.
That's
I
okay.
apologize for that.
Just describe it for us.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you some context. With the Blue Heron, it's off of Meridian Road, in between Ustick and Fairview,
Okay.
or where Fairview Fairview turns into Cherry Lane.
Okay.
Right there. So it's about halfway between Ustick and Fairview/Cherry Lane off of Meridian Road.
So half a mile,
Okay.
maybe, less than a half.
Ish, yeah.
Oh, that's not, that's
Yeah,
sounding
Josh,
better and
you-
better.
So I think this is where he was proposing. This is Fairview and Main Street here.
Okay.
This is the corner, and it would be here.
Okay.
So it's from there to there.
There. Yeah, that's even closer than we thought. I think, thank you for looking at those locations, Jessica.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth going to Ian and with this proposal and seeing what he thinks about that and letting him know that we will also let him know, we'll remind him when the other traffic box on his family's land becomes available and see if, and of course, then it's up to his option whether he'd still like to wait for the box that's opening up in 2021, or hopefully he'll think this other thing's cool so that we can get that heron up quicker and in a really relevant place, and then possibly consider another option in 2021.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
also, I
Councilwoman.
think that when these situations come up, like with council, I don't know how to put in the record that we're gonna contact him, whose responsibility that is. How many of you are still gonna be here? I hope you're all here, but this is a revolving council and even with staff, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
So it may be better to tell him the date
Now.
and say, it comes available this date, so like 3 months ahead of time or something like that. Contact us at
Okay.
the city, contact the clerk's office, or contact the Parks Department or somebody, the chair, maybe just the Arts Commission, and then we'll go through the process and make sure that you have, you know, but before it comes up, because if nobody knows, if nobody remembers
Yeah.
even, then what if that box gets wrapped and he gets missed? And I would really hate for that to happen as well.
Madam
That's a better
Chair,
process. Thank you.
Process
Councilwoman
is
Mylum,
huge.
thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Councilmember Mylum, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. I do agree with that. Also, just kind of as a backup too, we do have a spreadsheet that we would be able to put it on. But knowing kind of what all that work looks like in that folder, it is possible that that could get overlooked.
Highlight
So
it.
just to know, just to know that it probably would be somewhere, but the promise that some
Right.
city staff, depending on who it is that's responsible for that, that it could go slip through the cracks. So
Okay.
that's an excellent point. Thank you.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
And Madam
So-
Chair, I
Yes,
think
Jessica.
one thing that we would want to make clear when giving him that message is that I think the idea is that we would not, for this piece of artwork, he could choose to either wrap it at an available spot now or wait until his desired location becomes available, but that we would not wrap the same piece twice, or we would not move it.
All right.
Right, right.
So, and
But it could be
and
the
if he
same
wanted to,
artist, right?
right, if he wanted to wrap this piece at an available location now, he's still welcome to sponsor his desired location when it's available, but he would have to choose a different piece at that point.
Great.
Or we could just do the same piece for all the traffic boxes.
Yes. Consistency,
It's-
branding,
it's-
right?
It's a very lovely piece, but it's, it kind of, yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
and members of the commission, I guess I'd like to pose a question to you. If I go to him with this information, either A, he can wait until 2021, we'll hope to promise on some list that he'll get his choice in 2021, or we propose this location that Jessica found on Blue Heron. Are there any other options that I should propose to him, or is it either choice A or choice B?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can I throw in maybe
Councilwoman
a
Light.
C? With the recommendation that Jessica came up with, but then as a soft, this is what we think would be the best location because it's close to your location, but we do have other locations if you don't like this location, because people like to feel like they have a choice, especially.
Yeah,
Yes.
we do have other locations, and if he doesn't want to use the recommended location, we can work with him on a different one. But I think that would have to go back up to the commission to vote on, is that right? So it would be a delay, but we could certainly
Yeah.
work with him.
So to summarize, there's three things that we're going to discuss with him. Number one is option A would be to wait till 2021 till his preferred box becomes available to install the preferred art that he would like to put on his, in that area. Option B would be to use the proposed, the newly proposed traffic box at, and I wish I had it up, but the
Meridian
one at
and
Ustick
Woodbridge,
and,
yeah.
the one close to Woodbridge that has the relevance to Heron Village and,
It's also near the bike path there that cuts between Meridian Road and, oh, what's the next
Right.
one over? Linder.
Okay.
And so there's a creek there, and it gets a lot of traffic from people on the bike path, so.
Great.
It's highly visible, and we'll get a lot of people will see it.
and it's close. It's only about a half a mile away from his preferred location. So that's option B, that he wrap that now with his preferred artwork. Option C is that he do, and of course, option D would be that he doesn't take any of these choices, but
Right.
option C would be that he chooses to wrap the one that's available now, as well as come back to us if he would like to consider the other traffic box when it comes open, or
Well-
another piece of artwork.
Well, I don't know that it's an either or. He can certainly, I don't
He
think
could do,
that.
no, he could do both. That's what my
Right,
option C was
I don't
doing
think
both.
that A and C would, I don't think that if he chooses to wrap now in our new location, I don't think that would preclude him from, choosing later.
I was just thinking that for his clarity, that we could tell him that one option is that you wrap just that box. Second option is that you wrap, wrap only that box when it becomes available in 2021. And third option is that you wrap the box that's available now and then consider coming back to us to wrap the second, so that I just think it's easier if it's one, the other, or the consideration of both, if he, see what I mean? To give him the options, just for clarity. I don't know if, and then option D is he chooses to opt out, So does that make sense? Or should we just keep it to the three?
Well, I think the other option would be that he would choose we would work with him to choose a different location. Aside
Okay.
from, a third location, that would be a different one.
Yeah, if he doesn't like the person. Good.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so are you recommending that he would pay for both boxes now? And
No.
so the one in 2021 would already be paid for and
No,
reserved?
I don't know that he would be allowed to. Probably it's just fiscal year, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But-
He'd
and-
just
and we're
have to
not
come back
promising-
around.
We're not promising him that he would definitely get that box when it becomes available, because we can't really do that. We're just saying, it will become available on this date if you are still interested in wrapping something there his circumstances might change too by then. So if he's still interested then, we could maybe I don't know if we could promise anything, but we could tell him that he's welcome to come back in 2021 and offer to sponsor then as well.
Yeah, I wish we could put a reservation on it, but I just don't think
Then
we're allowed
anybody
to do
could do
that.
that, and
Yeah.
it becomes complicated, and we want to make it
Yeah.
a fair process for everybody,
Yep.
so.
So, Adrienne, is that clear enough? And
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I got it.
thank you.
Yeah,
And
you
am
bet.
I pronouncing your name correctly? Is it
Adrian, yeah.
Adrienne?
Yes.
Not Adrienne.
No, just
Adrienne.
Adrian. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
It's Leslie, I go by
Not Leslie?
Leslie. Yeah. So Adrienne, I wanted to make sure I was getting that correct. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for that, and I guess we'll have this on the agenda for next.
Yeah,
next
Madam
month as
Chair,
well.
I'll go ahead and give him a call back and let him know he's expecting my call tomorrow. So I'll follow up with him, and then if it's okay with everybody else, we don't have to wait till next meeting. I can just send out an email to everyone
Awesome.
and let you know what he decides to do.
If he's good with that proposed location.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you know regardless of what he decides to do, so that we can, move forward with either processing a refund of his sponsorship or going about wrapping the traffic box, et cetera.
And
Okay, perfect.
did
Thank you.
did we come to some agreement about how much the sponsorship costs versus how much he donated? Because I got the sense from the last meeting that there was some discrepancy there.
Commissioner Peters, I'm going to have Emily weigh in on this, on the actual sponsorship amount. As far as I understood, better look it up, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I don't know the answer to that still. We looked it up, and I had a thing that said what I thought it was, and we also found things that said what the other thing said. But I would actually defer to the 824 or whatever the number was. We don't have to, but I'm not sure that my number was supported by anything other than a discussion. I don't know that it was a motion of the Arts Commission, and frankly, I didn't look that up. But the form that I drafted said $950. Sponsorships are really contracts between two parties and not fees, but the 800 and whatever the number was reflected the actual cost, which is more akin to a fee. Because it's a sponsorship, it can be more than what it costs. And I think the intent was that it was sort of a revenue stream, but as we know, that money really just goes to the general fund. It's not like it goes into the Arts Commission's account to spend later. You can always point to it as a revenue, some revenue that you brought in to say, can we please have that back? But it really, I can see why and it was probably Hillary, she's a very common sense person. I can see why she charged the amount that it cost rather than what I had for some reason put on this form. So it remains a mystery, but really what we have been charging is the 800 number.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Emily, I found Ian's sponsorship, there is a sponsorship acceptance form for Traffic Box Community Art Project. The sponsor information shows that a check made out to the city of Meridian for $824 is what is required for the sponsorship. And it says contributions for less than $824 will be deemed donations to MAC, and donor will not be entitled to recognition as a Traffic Box Community Art Project sponsor.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
found that form on the website as well. I just wanted to make sure that what we said publicly was what we were adhering to, so we're all good.
Okay.
Yes, and that's the amount that Ian paid as well, is $824.
And I think that, thank you, Adrienne, and thank you, Jessica. I think that what you said about real cost as opposed to sponsorship number makes sense because it's $824. That seems like an actual cost. So, yeah, okay. Thank you, Emily.
Madam Chair, that is in fact the actual cost. So
Okay.
it's $300 of that is the artist commission, and the rest is the
Wrap
signs, et
itself.
cetera, that puts it on the box.
Okay, okay, great. Okay, are there any more questions on this topic? If not, thank you, Adrienne. We'll look for that update. And thank you, everybody, for your work on this. Jessica, thank you for looking and finding another appropriate spot, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so we have reports. This strategic plan adoption update, it went really smoothly. I thought council was receptive, and yeah, there was a unanimous vote. So we are, I'd like to thank everybody for all of your hard work throughout the year in subcommittees as well as at commission meetings and at home, looking through emails and making comments to get to the strategic plan that we now have approved. So we have a strategic plan for the next 5 years. So that's all I have to say on that. The one comment that was brought up in council was diversity and having something that reflected it. And I thought that we could easily manage that in our branding, which is such a strong part of our near goals. And to me, diversity also is somewhat implied by the fact that there's an arts commission supported by the city, because art is meant to art in its very nature has diversity built into it in some ways. I think it's intrinsic. As an artist, I view it that way. But I realize that there are things that we could work on in that area. I thought it was a very good comment, and we could certainly make use of that comment when we come up, keep it in our minds and in our discussion as we go forward with that near goal of coming up with a new branding and marketing focus.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And I agree with you. Thank you for sharing their comments. And I think we discussed this in our session when we were working on the strategic plan. So I think we're all committed to it, which is great. In addition, the city is also undertaking a diversity effort, and a number of commissioners have attended the first meeting. I was at the meeting with Gretchen and Maria. And I think we intend to remain involved, and certainly any commissioner who's interested, I think, should be involved. And so that's sort of an extra tie-in to what we're doing, as well as to bring the arts aspect to the city's diversity efforts as well.
Fantastic. Thank you
Yeah.
for attending. I'll make sure that I get some of those.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions or items to discuss there?
I would just
Lynn?
like to say, Madam Chair, that meeting with Delta James and working all this out, even though it was exhausting at 3 o'clock, I think it was a very good thing to do, especially at this particular time in the life of this city, second fastest growing city in the United States. So I think it was worth every penny that was paid for it.
Yes, I agree. The timing of the sundowning and the new building on the comprehensive plans, it has seemed to be very propinquitous, and it's.
You're right. Propinquitous. Oh, that's a lovely word.
Is that a weird word? Sorry.
Oh, it's
Once in a while something comes out.
propinquity and consanguinity are two legal terms.
Yes, they're very good. So, very good. So,
My 2-year-old.
if there's, what?
So I'm going to teach that to my 2-year-old.
The very propinquitous moment. Yes, so with that, if there's no more further questions about the strategic plan up at the adoption, we would go to number 7, which is to announce that our next meeting is November 14th, 2019, of course, and our favorite motion of the day is...
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?